drunk redneck truckers are trying to have their way with me!
Not while my scrotum is pressed up against my stomach in these jeans, they won't.
Depending on who you ask, the recent remake of Roadhouse is either the greatest thing they've ever seen, or an absolute slap in the face to Patrick Swayze's legacy. Overall film quality aside, I think it's safe to say that the aspect which is most important to both the original and the remake that no one asked for is the quality of the fights. Seeing as how the remake updated the choreography to be more modern and incorporate concepts of mixed martial arts, I felt it was my duty, nay, my sworn obligation to my subscribers to do a quick breakdown of just how well they did. So sit back, crack open a cold one, and let's see how this bar fight stacks up. From a choreography standpoint, this might be the single most manic fight I've ever witnessed. There are both extreme highs and lows throughout the entire scene. First, let's take a look at the good. The strikes themselves do carry weight. At no point does one get the sense that these punches and kicks don't hurt their intended targets. Which is a good thing, considering one of the combatants is played by a former professional fighter known for his uncanny knockout power, as well as his unique personality.
Who gives a fuck? I run New York City! I'm a fucking pimp!
As we can see, the fists are correctly clenched and get the proper spin and angle before connecting. Also, the kicks resemble a style commonly seen from Thai boxers, which tend to be thrown with a locked knee rather than a snapping motion more akin to karate fighters. By locking the knee and opening one's hips wider, this creates a whipping effect which dramatically increases the power of the kick. Along with some of the more legitimate looking strikes you'll see in a film, they've peppered in a number of other authentic looking techniques. The first being the utilization of the plum clinch. In Muay Thai, this clinch is used to immobilize your opponent, and despite its funny sounding name, when used in conjunction with knee strikes, becomes a deadly combination which can end the fight in mere moments. This technique was popularized to general audiences by Anderson Silva, but has been around for hundreds of years. The next technique we see is actually near and dear to my heart, as it was one of the first throws I ever learned. The kataguruma, or shoulder wheel, also known as the fireman's carry in wrestling, is one of the most versatile and effective takedowns in both judo and Greco-Roman based grappling styles. In fact, this was a personal favorite of the founder of judo himself, Kano Jigoro, who I believe would have been very pleased with the way it was choreographed in this scene. Using one's own body as a fulcrum, a fighter can use the uke or opponent's own weight to guide over his shoulders and land next to him. This one is a bit exaggerated for movie's sake, but is still a fairly accurate representation. Lastly, I would like to touch on this sequence, which is a damn near perfect exhibit of jiu-jitsu technique. As we can see here, Dalton is being lit up by punches to the face, otherwise known as the Rocky strategy. Given there's really a finite amount of times which one can allow this to happen, it's imperative to stop it expeditiously. Barring some freak occurrence,
I use my face to break the son of a bitch's hand.
One extremely effective strategy is to engage in grappling. By ducking a punch and closing the distance, Dalton performs what's called a sit-out, which exposes Knox's back, allowing the former to establish what's called back control or back mount. Notice the alternating arms crossing over Knox's chest. This is to help establish a greater restraint around the torso, forming a seatbelt grip. We also see the extremely important positioning of the feet within the inner thighs. Known as hooks, these are a key piece to the puzzle in how to maintain a connection to your opponent and control their movements. As seen shortly when Dalton is able to maintain this position despite Knox thrashing about. The position is only undone when one of the hooks is beaten, as seen here. And finally, this is possibly the most accurate rear naked choke attempt ever seen in a film. Note the position of the elbow, nearly perfectly in line with the chin. The placement of the lead arm's hand inside the crook of the elbow cupping the bicep, and the trailing hand behind the head. This is a near masterpiece of a choke, only spoiled by the fact that it doesn't succeed in ending this fight. However, if you recall at the beginning of this video, I said that this was some pretty manic melee. What I mean by that is this: for all the good I just highlighted, there's an equal or more amount of bad offsetting it. Whether it's the combatants' flagrant disregard for protecting their faces, the inconsistent nature of the damage taken, or whatever the fuck this pro wrestling shit is supposed to be. This strange, fickle approach to realism comes off as the film trying to have its cake and eat it too. It extends to the tone of the fight as well, which has random moments of comedy interspersed throughout.
This piano's out of tune.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Despite the fact that it's supposed to be treated very seriously. Credibility takes a serious hit as well when the film can't quite make up its mind on how cartoony it wants to go. Even the cinematography has bipolar disorder, with jarring jump cuts and close-ups which detract from an otherwise well-filmed scene. You get the sense that the cameraman couldn't decide if he wanted to be traditional or avant-garde. And don't even get me started on the completely unnecessary CGI used to enhance the scene. Put this all together and you get a jumbled mess of good and bad, which unfortunately isn't able to save a mediocre movie. And if that's not enough to convince you that this choppily choreographed confrontation isn't the anchor which keeps this rudderless ship from drifting into obscurity, I'm not sure anything I could possibly say would do the trick.